Hey guys, I want to share my developing thoughts on grace. Now, you guys may be more mature than this and beyond this. Um, I just feel like what I've learned in the past and what I've been taught, it's now sinking in, and I have a different perspective, and I want to share it with you in case it sheds lights on different areas of your understanding of grace, or if you have anything that you want to share with me that could help me along, that'd be great too. So I was given the illustration of a relay race, how you have the runner and then you pass it on the baton to the next person. Yeshua is the one that's going to finish the race. We run the race and then Yeshua finishes it. We have our weakness. There are places that we aren't able to go spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, but Yeshua is going to take our hand and finish that. He's gonna be the one, like Peter in the water. It's like, you can do this. You can walk on the water, but I'm gonna help you. We're gonna finish this together. So I have my Bible here and my notes right there. So I'm gonna go through lots of scripture reference. Forgive me if it take a while to thumb through it all. I'm gonna start with the analogy of the race. Grace is not Yeshua finishing it and then just leaves us to our own devices. Like, we are called to run the race. So 1 Corinthians 9:23 through 27. But I do it all because of the rewards promised by the good news, so that I may share in them along with the others who come to trust. Don't you know that in a race all the runners compete, but only one wins the prize? So then, run to win. Now, every athlete is training, submits himself to strict discipline, and he does it just to win a laurel wreath that will soon wither away. But we do it to win a crown that will last forever. Accordingly, I don't run aimlessly, but straight for the finish line. I don't shadow box, but I try to make every punch count. I treat my body hard and make it a slave, so that after proclaiming the good news to everyone, I myself will not be disqualified. My second reference is in 2 Timothy. Again, it's another race analogy. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 5 through 8. But you remain steady in every situation, endure suffering, do the work a proclaimer of the good news should, and do everything your service to God requires. For as for me, I am already being poured out on the altar. Yes, the time of my departure has arrived. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. All that awaits me now is a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only me, but also all who have longed for him to appear. I'm going to go on to 3. I believe it's one more race analogy, but then we're going into grace being the sufficiency. Hebrews 12:1 through 4. So then, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witness, let us too put aside every impediment, that is, the sin which easily hampers our forward movement, and keep running with endurance in the contest set before us. Keep looking to the initiator. Looking away to the initiator and completer in our trusting, Yeshua, who in exchange for obtaining the joy set before him endured execution on a stake as a criminal, scorning the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Yes, think about him who endured such hostility against himself from sinners, so that you won't grow tired or become despondent. You have not yet resisted to the point of shedding blood in the contest against sin. So as we're running that race, it's Yeshua that's going to finish it. He finished it. But we're still called and set aside to do the task at hand. So again, a familiar verse talking about the sufficiency of grace. We're going to go to 2 Corinthians slide. I guess I lost my little tab. Chapter 12, verse 8 through 10. 3 times I begged the Lord to take this thing away from me, but he told me, my grace is enough for you, for my power is brought to perfection in weakness. Therefore I am very happy to boast about my weakness, in order that the Messiah's power will rest on me. Yes, I am well pleased with weakness, insults, hardships, persecutions, difficulties endured on behalf of the Messiah, for it is when I am weak that I am strong. That's Yeshua taking the baton, the grace relying on him in our weakness, hardships, the persecutions, the discouragements, like remembering the grace. He is going to finish it. He is going to make us the strong one, the righteous one. And I'm sorry, there's I guess a mosquito. There's something hovering around me. It is finished. So that is a more, also equally, I guess, favorite. John 19, verse 30. After Yeshua had taken the wine, he said, "It is accomplished." And letting his head drop, he delivered up his spirit. He's the one that's going to declare when it's finished. It's not us. It's not, I can't do this. It's too difficult. It's too that I can't. I'm unable to. All these things that we speak, or we allow people to speak, or even the enemy to speak over us, it's Yeshua that's going to declare when it is finished. And we will come short. Here's another favorite. Romans 3, verses 23. Let me find so I can read it straight out. Verses 23 through 26. Since all have sinned and come short of earning God's praise, by God's grace, without earning it, all are granted the status of being considered righteous before him through the act of redeeming us from our enslavement to sin that was accomplished by Messiah Yeshua. God put Yeshua forward as the kapara for sin through his faithfulness in respect to his bloody sacrificial death. This vindicated God's righteousness, because in his forbearance he has passed over with neither punishment nor remission the sins people had committed in the past. And it vindicates his righteousness in the present age by showing that he is righteous himself, and is also the one who makes people righteous on the grounds of Yeshua's faithfulness. 7. My 7th point, Romans 8, 28 through 30. Furthermore, we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called in accordance with his purpose, because those whom he knew in advance and also determined in advance would be conformed to the pattern of his Son, so that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. And those whom he thus determined in advance, he also called. Those he called, he also caused to be considered righteous. And those he caused to be considered righteous, he will also glorify. It's his work. We do the task that has been set before us, but he's the one that's going to cause us to be righteous and be glorified. So then we can do all things. Philippians 4, 13 through 14. I think I'm generally, when we look at this, we don't go to the 14th, to the next verse. And so I'm going to take it to the next verse. Philippians 4, 13 and 14. I can do all things through him who gives me power. 14. Nevertheless, it was good for you to share in my trouble. We're going to have to share in some trouble. Namely, Yeshua's. He was persecuted, and we will follow in his steps. So then, the example, I made reference earlier to the walking on water. That's found Matthew 14. I'm not going to read it. Matthew 14:22 through 33. You're welcome to read that example for yourself, that he's going to be the completer. He's the initiator. He is the one that's extending grace to us to complete the task at hand. And other notes, I guess reminder, I need to make sure to say this when anyone speaks about grace, it should be considered that grace is not an allowance to sin. We are dead to sin. We are no longer slaves to sin. Sin is something that many of us do struggle with. I know I do. There's that natural, that flesh versus spirit struggle that it's ongoing. But there's not, grace isn't an allowance to sin. All of that is found in Romans 6. I'm not going to read it all. Romans chapter 6 is great at explaining all the details of that. Romans 4:16 through 17. That's another one of my favorites. So, yes, the whole born to sin, we have flesh struggling, but grace is having faith. Grace is extending the faith to believe in things, in a God that, let me just read it. Sorry. Romans 4:16 through 17. The reason the promise is based on trusting is so that it may come as God's free gift, a promise that can be relied on by all the seed, not only those who live within the framework of Torah, but also those with the kind of trust Abraham had. Abraham Avinu, father for us all. This accords with the Tanakh where it says, I appointed you to be father over many nations. Abraham is a father in God's sight because he trusted God as the one who gives life to the dead and calls non-existent things into existence. Non-existent things into existence. Those things that we cannot accomplish, those things that there's no way that can be made away. God, having faith in the God who can call things into existence that did not exist, that is a grace. All right, God started it and he will finish it. I have as Bible reference Philippians 1 verses 6 through 11. Philippians 1 verse 6 to 11. And I am sure of this, that the one who began a good work among you will keep it growing until it is completed on the day of the Messiah Yeshua. It is right for me to think this way about you all, because I have you on my heart, and whether I am in chains or defending and establishing the good news, you are all sharing with me in this privileged work. God can testify how I long for all of you with the deep affection of the Messiah Yeshua. And this is my prayer, that your love be more and more overflow in fullness of knowledge and depth of concern, so that you will be able to determine what is best, and thus be pure and without blame for the day of Messiah, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Yeshua the Messiah, to the glory and praise of God. You know what? It was just Philippians 1, verse 6. 11. That's okay. Let me read that one more time. And I'm sure of this, that the one who began a good work in you, among you, will keep it growing into the day of its completion on the day of Messiah Yeshua. It's God who's going to start it and finish it. It has little to do with us, but we're the ones that's called to do what he's given and put before us. So that again, if you're stressing to make things look a certain way, or to do things a certain way, or to accomplish a certain something, it's him that's going to make sure that it gets completed. He will not leave us alone to our own devices. You're not going to be stranded. And then I want to finish with Revelation. I have two references. 22:12 through 13. Pay attention, says Yeshua. I am coming soon, and my reward is with me, to give to each person according to what he has done. I am the Aleph and the Tav, and the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Revelation 1, verse 8. I am the Aleph and the Tav. I am the A and the Z, says Adonai, God of the heavens' armies, the one who is, one who was, and one who is coming. So there, that wraps it up. That's all my Bible reference, the things that I have been learning, that God is the author and creator, finisher. Yeshua is the one that's going to declare it finished. But we are the ones to run the race.